We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this rebel outpost. If you want to support the home for college football sickos with a donation to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign where you make a comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. This studio, the College Football Peek Around the Corner studio, sits exactly in the middle of Loserville City. And I have been reelected mayor once again. Loserville City. For those guys and gals who were born in the state of Minnesota, who are 34 years and younger, you have never tasted a world championship, a world champion in men's sports, professional men's sports in the state of Minnesota. If you are 34 and younger, now I happen to be a lot older than 34, a lot older, lots. I was a young teenager when the Minnesota Twins won the 1987-1991 World Series. But that's it when it comes to men's professional sports. That's it. The Minnesota Kicks, they got blown out in professional soccer ball, whatever you call that, back in the 70s and 80s. The North Stars got blown out in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Pittsburgh Penguins and maybe the New York Islanders, I forget. The Minnesota Vikings have lost 4 Super Bowls. The state of hockey, we've never held up the Stanley Cup. Lombardi Trophy, never seen it. The NBA basketball, if the Minnesota Timberwolves were in a boat out in the middle of the Atlantic, and if they had a basketball in that pontoon boat, and if they shot the basketball, they would not be able to hit the ocean. Only in Minnesota can we break all records for ineptitude on the national stage. Only here. When I finally started believing in something, we embarrassed us. We embarrassed ourselves. The Minnesota Timberwolves were 7 of 47 against the Lakers in Game 5 on 3-point shots. 1 of 17 in the second half. We missed everything in the first half of last. There was one point that the Minnesota Timberwolves, of the last 34 3-point shots, they had hit one. That is 2.9% at 3-point. I mean, it is You've got Stephen Curry, 37 years old, who goes out with a hamstring injury. Who knows when we're going to see him next? It did not matter. Greg the Cooler strikes again. Every time you watch a live show, every time you watch an episode, every time you watch a watch party with me, every time you hear a PATC rendition, every time you go into the Holy Smokes Theater, remember, this studio sits in the middle of Loserville City, and I am your mayor. Now let's get on with this show. I had to get out. Look, I couldn't even sleep last night. That was unbelievable. We didn't just lose like we always do. I mean, Minnesota, the land of losers. We embarrassed ourselves. We embarrassed ourselves once again. It's never going to end. Preston from Greensboro. Kurt Gowdy Drive isn't anywhere close to Loserville City. Well, then there is two Kurt Gowdy drives. And plus, it's Kurt Gowdy Avenue. In this Loserville city, it's Kurt Gowdy Avenue, Keith Jackson Parkway. So two different roads, two different highways. Yes, I know, Brian. Yes, I know. Bruce Harris. Dallas Stars and Lakers have both won. George Mikan was a great Minnesota Laker. Timberwolves got a chance. All right, Almighty Finn. Okay, Timberwolves got a chance. Only if you, Almighty Finn, become their shooting coach. I mean, Greg the Cooler, the Timberwolves are breaking all kinds of records, all kinds of playoff records in ineptitude, in three-point shooting. Okay, let's get to it. Thank you for the super chat, Preston from Greensboro. I do appreciate it so very much. Thank you for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on. I apologize. I had to get that off my chest. I wasn't yelling at any of you. I was not yelling at any of you. I was yelling at myself for being the mayor of Loserville City. We have got a stacked show today. Presidential Commission on College Sports. There has been a lot of presidential commissions set up over the years. Many, many. I mean, if you do any research on it, Presidential Commission on the Poor in the United States, 1986. Presidential Commission on John F. Kennedy assassination. Presidential Commission on gun control. Presidential Commission on the environment. Presidential Commission on health and whatever. On and on and on and on. College Sports Presidential Commission. We are going to be going through that. That was the breaking news today. One of the many breaking news. I'm going to probably surprise some of you with this. I don't mind this so much. I am not against this, even though I made a joke about another presidential commission. I am not against this. I do not. Now, I could be naive. Tell me if I'm naive in the chat room. Let me know how wrong I am with the phone calls. But as we go through this reporting, I don't think it's going to cause much harm. It probably isn't going to help either. Probably not going to help. Probably. But it might. I only say that because we keep getting reports that the 5 senators are as close as they've ever been in this great compromise to codify the settlement that's coming up. Could be coming up today. Keep your head on a swivel. Judge Wilkins. We keep hearing reports that the senators are working on it. In fact, we got a report today that they talked about it yesterday, Tuesday. The 5 senators got together. Maybe a presidential commission. Maybe the senators say we don't want another cook in the kitchen. Let's get it done. Maybe it will help with that. But I don't think it's going to hurt. A presidential commission doesn't put fear into me. What did put fear into me, and I talked about it, was this potential, this thing that was floated a presidential executive order. That wasn't going to work. It just wasn't. I mean, Saban and Trump got together and they floated this idea of an executive order. It would have never, it would have been defeated quickly. It just would not have worked. And it might have hurt. A presidential commission, you're bringing a lot of people in. You're having a commission on it. But again, I really think that our one last shot at this, if the 5 senators representing both parties, both sides of the aisle, if they can get this done and the settlement gets codified, and maybe we can have some guardrails, at least for the next few years, in the sport that we love, college football. So we're going to be talking about the Presidential Commission. We're also going to be talking just a little bit about this new governance. Again, we don't have a lot of information. Charlie Baker proposed a new governance structure months ago. Again, there is nothing official. Hopefully by July 1st, the autonomous 4 conferences are going to lead this new structure. They're going to be the power. They're going to have 51% of the power at least in creating these events. And they keep saying, Sankey and others keep saying, we're not going to push the other 28 other D1 conferences out of March Madness and all that stuff. But they just want the power. It looks like they're going to get it. But there is some pushback in an article and a report that we're going to go through today. And then one of the sources of the article said, look, at some point, we the little guys, we the little gals are going to tell the Autonomy 4, take your ball and go home. And if that happens, if the Autonomy 4 takes their ball and go home, they're going to separate themselves from the association, the NCAA. Back and forth, leverage play. Everyone's cloak and dagger. So we're going to go through the new governance, or a possibly new governance. I don't talk about it a lot because it was a proposal by Charlie Baker. Been waiting for some reporting on it. We finally got some a little bit today. But first, we are going to start out with the Big Ten money. Big Ten, as we all know, is absolutely loaded with cash. The Athletic came out with a report of what their distribution numbers were. They are staggering, and it's only going to keep going up. And when the new college football playoffs money gets distributed per team by conference, the Big Ten Conference payouts to their fully invested universities are going to climb over that $100 million mark. So I would say in the spring of, by at least the spring of 2028, which would encompass July 1st, 2026 to June 30th of 2027. That is what you see in 2028 spring revenue reports. By the spring of 2028, fully invested Big Ten universities are going to be receiving over $100 million in conference payouts. Got to keep all that in the back of your mind when you're talking about the potential major next disruption. We at Peek Around the Corner have said that the Big Ten is not thirsting for expansion. Tony Petitti left the Holy Smokes Theater last year in our June 15th live show. We've often expressed our strongly held opinion here at Peek Around the Corner that the Big Ten is targeting North Carolina and Notre Dame. They're the ones that would create more expansion for the Big Ten. We have let you all know that everything we have heard thus far is that North Carolina leans SEC. And if it should, and they're going to be the trigger point. In the next wave of disruption, we believe that North Carolina is that trigger point. And Notre Dame is not going to fall into the hands of the Big 12 unless the SEC does a major scoopage of the ACC top brands. So, again, when you're talking about the next major disruption in college sports, the SEC, you are not going to see a major revenue shift among SEC members until next spring's reporting, because that is going to encompass their first year under their new media rights package, media rights deal. And you're going to see eventually the SEC conference payouts are going to explode, and they're going to go past the Big Ten, and if not 26 in 27 per team, and definitely in 2028. We think the SEC, no matter what Greg Sankey says in public, we believe that Greg Sankey has, the SEC presidents have more thirst in conference expansion if the correct opportunity arises for the SEC. Now that is not new. We've been talking about that forever. Again, let's do a roll call, and then let's go through these major reports coming out today. It is May 7th, Wednesday. April chatter, May matters. This month, we've already heard a lot of stuff. This is only the first week in May, and this month is cooking. We are all waiting for the judge, for her to make a decision on if she's going to delay the decision on the settlement, approve the settlement, or just delete that settlement. The agreement between the plaintiffs and the defendants. House versus NCAA. We are waiting for that potentially today. So keep your heads on a swivel. Let's do a roll call real quick here. We've got a lot to get through. James Foster is in the house. Richard L., Colorado. James Foster, Sun Devil, Bruce Harris, Boomer, AMAC is in the house. Breeze in Georgia, go Seminoles. MBM, go Pokes. Scaving, yes. Hello, Mad Gopher. Hello, Mad Cornhusker. Clint Moses is in the house. The Walking Geek. Go Hills. Hello, sickos. Preston from Greensboro. Bill G is here. Tumasta. George Holton. Osceola Trucker. Go Nose. Ryan Brooks. Go Tigers. Go Tigers. Florida Man. Go Seminoles. David Floyd. The rich bloods of college football. The Buckeyes, the Longhorns, the Ducks, the Red Raiders. The Fighting Irish in the Hurricanes. Daniel Gorby. Hello, Greg. You know what, Daniel? I'm going to have to go through something that you sent to me. I'll get to that in a second. Penn State Bob Swanger is in the house. Lee is in the house. Rob Ellen is here. CFB Plus. Stormy Cyclone. Outlaw Skis. AMAC. No, that does not count. The Stars, the Dallas Stars, that does not count. No. No. Dante's Inferno Purgatory. Coy's in the house. David M is here. David M is here. Jane Hulk is in the house. The Almighty Finn. Stormy Cyclone. Deadeye. Yo Greg. Yo Deadeye. Cranky Tiger. He's here for the cult meeting. Old Army 02. University of Minnesota Army ROTC came in second behind West Point. Congratulations to all those that participated. Congratulations. Jerry is in the house. He loves the PATC. I love you, Jerry. Plus, you share my father's name. So it's always nice to see your name. Little Knife 3, Press Putin will have commission after the war. Daniel Gygax is in the house. Charlie Atwood. Patrick Baylor Bear is here. Jay Chapman. Christopher Marcato. Carla Jenkins is in the house. Nathan Campbell. Hi, Nathan. Jackson Johnson is here. Jose, the USC Trojan, is in the house. Tom DeBay, Toast, Taylor Mott, Go Pokes. Flint Dog is in the house. ACC going in 18 games, one permanent rival. ACC's making all these moves. They're making all these moves before the ACC meetings. All these announcements. More is on the way, most likely. I got the keys. Keith Moore is in the house. We got a lot of people joining us early on May 7th. I'm so humbled that you all want to spend a little time with the fat guy from Minnesota, Cranky Tiger, Early Peak, Cloak and Dagger. Holy smokes, Cranky Tiger. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. You are hereby knighted. Cranky Tiger. Clemson Cranky Tiger. Cranky Tiger is cranky at me because for right now, I got Clemson going all the way to the national championship game. And Greg the Cooler is not well liked. I am not well liked. Cranky Tiger is mad at me. But because I love his team this year, but he's generous enough to be a member of our program. Thank you so very much. You are knighted, Cloak, and Dagger. I keep liking to think, I want to believe. I want to believe. I want to believe. I don't know if I can keep up the act, to be honest with you. I'm feeling a little weak in the knees. I don't know if Greg the Gold is going to make an appearance this year. I'm a hoping. I'm a praying. I gotta believe. I cannot be this cold all the time. Everything I touch freezes up. The Timberwolves cannot hit a jump shot. I tell you what, the 133 Cardinals at the Vatican made their first vote already today. It went up black smoke. They could not decide on the next pope, not yet. But whoever they choose to become the next pope of the Catholic Church and the 1.4 billion Catholics in the world, that pope be able to hit a jump shot from 23 feet away. Let's go. Okay, enough with the fun. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. Pope Pflugar. Greg froze the conclave. Come on, guys. Let's not start. I'm serious. We can't even make jokes about that. No jokes about that. All right? No jokes. But I do not want to affect anything that is going on at the Vatican. Greg the Cooler Powers is very strong. We got to keep it in-house. We cannot let it leak. We cannot let this leak. Okay, let's get to it. We got a lot to get through. Let's, first of all, I want to be careful here, but again, if I don't talk about it, nobody else will. To be honest with you. If I don't talk about it, nobody else will. Greg, you can't talk about this. It's too sensitive. We talked about the difficulties of really anybody, any potential Big Ten candidate out there for any Big Ten potential candidate to join the Big Ten Conference in 2027, 2028, it's going to be difficult unless it's North Carolina or Notre Dame. It could be a Miami, Florida State. It could be a Miami, Georgia Tech. It could be a Miami, Duke. It could be a Miami, Stanford. If Notre Dame and North Carolina are not involved. It could be a Miami, Clemson. In our strongly held opinion here at Peek Around the Corner. If North Carolina and Notre Dame are not in the mix, it's going to be very difficult for the Big Ten to expand. It's going to be very difficult. And part of the reasons are the presidents themselves. And look, these presidents are, it's not like they all come from the same type of background. They're all different, of course. A lot of them went to different universities and they had different specialties. Most of them are pure academics, academia, research. There are some of them that are political in nature, and they come from political families. I'm just telling you this, okay? I'm not approving of it. I'm just telling you what it is. Politics, unfortunately, are part of the process. It's not the overriding one in many of the cases. It's not, but it's part of it. It's part of it. How some, not all, a pocket of these presidents at these universities, if they're heavily political and they want to impress, they want to support those that they want to, that they agree with in the political world, and then they don't want to support those who they don't agree with in the political world. And so we talked about how the president of Michigan, the president of the Chancellor of Wisconsin, they are highly political people. They just are. The Chancellor of Wisconsin is highly political. And they just so happen to basically have a faction of about at least 4 votes. To become a Big Ten member, you need 13 of the 18 votes. You don't need the Chancellor of Wisconsin. You do not need President Ono's votes. It just makes it harder if you don't have their votes. That's all I'm saying. And some of these presidents and chancellors become highly political. President Ono has been part of the reports that looks like he's going to be the University of Florida's new president. Well, presidents, university presidents, some of them are highly political animals. And then the highly political animals of the states that these university presidents are about to come into, well, they're going to express their opinions as well. And that is the story of this gentleman, who I believe is running for governor of Florida, Byron Donalds, right? I believe he is going to be running for governor or maybe senator. I apologize. I do not keep up with, he's a congressman, conservative. Again, he wants this selection blocked. He wants this President Ono to be blocked for political reasons. Okay? Again, politics most of the time is not the overriding factor when it comes to conference realignment. It's not. But there is a certain ingredients that is in there. I tried to the best I could a month ago to delicately express the difficulties of gaining the support of President Ono and the Chancellor of Wisconsin and Cunningham from Minnesota and Northwestern if they don't perceive you as friendly to federal research for the federal government to keep pumping out those federal dollars. That's all I'm saying. That's all that I said. And now you're seeing the other side, a politician in Florida pushing back on Ono. Politics plays a part in all this. That's all I wanted to say. I got it out there. It's not the old overriding factor. But in this case, in this political environment, in this federal dollars, that's all I'm saying. Okay? Hopefully now more people can understand what I meant by all that. You got pushback back and forth. You got presidential pushback on certain universities to enter in the Big Ten of the SEC, and you're going to have some political blowback on the politicians in those states representing, they believe, those universities. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street, back and forth. Okay, I just want to touch upon that. And one more thing before we get to the Big Ten money. Congratulations to Cam Rising, who has announced his retirement from football, medical retirement. Congratulations on a spectacular career, fighting through injuries. He kept coming off the mat. Minor setbacks for major comebacks. Utah won a couple conference championships with Cam Rising. Medically retired. Congratulations on a great college football career, Mr. Rising. I wanted to get that out as well. Big Ten revenue soared to $928 million for 2024. Now, what does that mean? When it says for 2024, what does that exactly mean? I tried to explain it in a post on X. Okay? Let's take a look at that. Again, we're going to just quickly go through the article from The Athletic. Scott Docterman, Big Ten revenue is soaring once again. And I try to explain this. When you get a report coming out in the spring of 2025, okay, when you get a report coming out in the spring of 2025, and it's talking about the revenue of the 2024 fiscal year, okay, the report comes out in spring of 25 talking about the revenues of 2024. It actually means the following. And I've gone through this before, so I do apologize for those who have seen this before. Big Ten conference payout numbers, which covers July 1st, 2023 to June 30th of 2024. So these months right here, from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 24 is what you see in these 2025 revenue numbers for the Big Ten, for the SEC, for the ACC, for the Big 12. Okay? Now, we will go over this Steve Berkowitz, the Big Ten's per school distributions for fiscal 25. We're going to see that next spring. In the spring of 2026, seem likely to be around $75 million per school, except for Oregon and Washington, whose shares are being phased in over 7 years. Okay? 25 numbers, the spring of 25, covers July 1st of 2024 to June 30th of 25. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, if you want to just narrow this down on football, what these numbers are saying here, the numbers that we're going to go through, the Big Ten revenue numbers, this actually truly is football of 2023. Okay? If you want to narrow it down to that. It's not even really about last year. Next year's spring numbers will be about last year's football season. Okay, let's get on with it. Most of it, I should say. There is other stuff happening, but I don't want to go deep. I don't want to go in that rabbit hole right now. In its final year, it's a 14-member conference. Remember, this is 23. This was without Oregon and Washington. As I just explained, football 2023, not last year. In its final year as a 14-member conference, the Big Ten saw its revenue soar to $928 million, with projections to exceed $1 billion in the current 2025 fiscal year, according to the league's 2024 tax statement. The league dispersed between $63.26 million and $63.43 million to 12 of its members and $61.52 million to Rutgers in Maryland, which borrowed money from the Big Ten while they were considered non-vested members from 2014 to 2020. Both Maryland and Rutgers should obtain full shares in 2027. Okay? Most of the league's 18 athletics department. And by the way, it says right here, the 24th fiscal year concluded on June 30th of 2024, which I showed you guys in my tweet, in my post, right there. Okay? So this is none of this is about last year's football season. Same thing when you see the Big 12 numbers, the ACC numbers, the SEC numbers. I'm just explaining how all that works. Most of the league's 18 athletic departments have budgeted around $75 million from the Big Ten coffers for this current season. So in the next spring of 2026, they expect Big Ten conference payouts to be around that $75 million range. Washington and Oregon have half shares. USC and UCLA come in the Big Ten as fully vested members. Commissioner Kevin Warren is going to receive $6.8 million, including $5.75 million for bonuses, and then they talked about Jim Delaney receiving $5.85 million. Boy, these commissioners, these former commissioners, these parachutes that are lined with gold. Tony Petitti earned $2.62 million in compensation and bonus. Okay. So, what happens next is that, that's going to go up like 4 to 5. I think it went like 4.5%. There's a natural elevator inside the Big Ten contract. So it keeps going up 4.5%. Of course, the larger numbers you are using, 4.5%, more and more money. Okay. Now what happens in 2026? We get the new college football playoff, the new distribution. There is a dramatic change from what is happening now to what is going to happen in 2026. For the Big Ten, each Big Ten team is going to receive, it was in the low 20s, $22 million, $23 million per school, no matter what happens in the college football playoffs. Only a small percentage of that yearly $1.3 billion, $1.2 billion, whatever the number that was, of the ESPN's media deal, only a little bit of that money is going to go to the success of a particular team. Most of that is going to be flat pay to schools in the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and Notre Dame. Start in 2026, Notre Dame ain't going to be able to collect all that money, right? They're not going to make $60, $70 million in the playoffs. They're going to make about it was like $14, $15 million. And then maybe some extra as they go on in the playoffs. But their flat fee is going to be like a little bit more than the ACC schools. What I'm trying to say is the distribution dollars starting in the college football playoffs in 26, which is either going to be accounted for in the spring of 27, most likely the spring of 2028. Those Big Ten schools are going to be making over $100 million per conference payouts. They're going to climb over that $100 million mark with a couple years left in the current Big Ten media deal. Now, if you go look at the Big 12, if you go look at the ACC, if you go look at the SEC's projected conference payouts, when I'm talking about conference payouts, I'm talking about the media money, the NC tourney credits, the bowl money, and all that stuff. Okay? It's everything that a conference distributes to your team. Whatever you look at for conference payouts, it's going to differ. It's all projections, right? The Big Ten actually went a little bit higher than they thought they were going to get. Like, you go a little bit higher, you go a little bit lower, depending on how well your conference does in these tournaments and bowl games and playoffs, whatever. And money and sponsorships, whatever. my point is this. If you look at the consensus of your conference payouts per team in 2028, the SEC actually, I truly believe this. I might be off, I might be wrong on this, but the SEC payouts are going to climb over the Big Tens starting in 28. I say that, but of course there could be material conference realignment before we get to that, right? There could be. But as things stand right now, if there is no disruption in the autonomy for conferences, the SEC is going to climb over the Big Ten. Both of them are going to be over the $100 million mark. Now, some of you are saying, well, that can't be true, Greg. You can't be correct on that, Greg, because the reports today has the Big Ten at $63 million per school, and the reports have the SEC schools in the low 50s, low 50 million per school. That's correct, but remember, those numbers that you see for conference payouts for those SEC schools do not take into account their new media rights deal that took effect this year. You're going to start seeing the effect in next spring's reports. The SEC numbers, just to give you a peek around the corner at college football's peek around the corner, the SEC numbers, the Southeastern Conference payout numbers are about to explode. And of course, they're going to be receiving that college football playoff distribution money. It's going to explode. Now, the same projections, it can differ a little bit, but the Big 12 and the ACC conference payouts are going to be in the high 50s or in the low 60s. And of course, the ACC unequal revenue sharing based upon brand initiative, based upon success initiative, their numbers are going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot larger variance in the conference payouts during the ACC numbers. So you're going to have some ACC schools above the Big 12 schools, and I think you're going to see some ACC schools' conference payouts lower than the Big 12 school conference payouts. So you're going to have ACC low end, Big 12, ACC high end. But basically, on the average, those schools in the Big 10 and the Big 12 and the ACC are going to be about 30, 35, $40 million behind the SEC Big 10 conference payouts. Except for the highest success brand schools in the ACC. So, for example, if Clemson can succeed at a very high rate along with their brand success, which is going to be huge because they got all these, they're going to be playing Notre Dame every year. They're going to have the viewership numbers. They're going to be playing, South Carolina. They're going to be playing, more importantly, they're going to be playing Miami and Florida. They're going to have high viewership numbers. So if they can couple together the success and the brand numbers, Clemson is going to close the gap on the Big Ten and the SEC. But there are only going to be a couple ACC schools that are going to be able to do that, obviously, to really close the gap. And then there's going to be a few ACC schools that are going to make more than they would have if it wasn't for the brand initiative and the success initiative. And then you're going to have a pot of ACC schools that are all going to make less than they would have if they would not have done this unequal revenue sharing. There's going to be a lot of them. And there's been reports that there could be an average of like making $7 million less than if they would have just left everything alone per school. That is going to have a great effect on the ACC. The quality of play, I think it's going to be highly detrimental. We're going to find out together. So I just wanted to show those numbers. It really is. It is startling. And once you see them on paper, and when you see the SEC, the Southeastern Conference numbers explode starting next year. I mean, if you look at the Southeastern Conference athletic departments, if you look how much revenue they make, go to USA Today. There's a few sites that you can go to, and you look at those athletic department numbers that they make per SEC athletic department. All of that is before their huge media deal even has begun. So the SEC numbers are going to explode. Just to give everybody a peek, and the Big Ten numbers are going to continue to rise, and after a while they're going to look ridiculous. This is why I'm just setting the table. This is why I truly believe in my heart, in my brain, everybody that I talk to, we have been told that whatever is being said in private, whatever things are being said in public, let me say this again. Whatever is being said in public, what is being said in private is completely different. Schools in the ACC are trying to get out. And I hope to God that it gets expressed in a few reports in the month of May. Because I happen to know, with every fiber of my being, I happen to know this is true. And I believe it's going to be reported on. And when it is, people are going to go, woo! Now, that doesn't mean that anything is imminent. It just means these schools are still motivated to get out. I know the ACC's got the unequal revenue sharing. Clemson got to deal with Notre Dame. Notre Dame got a hell of a deal with Clemson. And I took the L yesterday. I didn't think they could get that type of deal with Clemson. Even if Clemson changes their conference affiliation, that scheduling deal stays in place. I never thought that would happen. I took the L yesterday. I'll take the L again today. Although scheduling deals can be ripped apart pretty easily once the change is made. But we'll just see what happens. But again, the reality is the numbers. They are staggering. There is going to be a huge dramatic gap unfolding, and they all know it's happening. And I think we've lost sight somewhat because of this ACC unequal revenue sharing. But again, that economic pie getting distributed isn't getting larger in the ACC. It's just getting cut up differently. Okay, so I just wanted to present the Big Ten numbers. I appreciate you all joining us May 7th. We got a lot more to get to before we get to your phone calls. Again, if you're new to the show, please subscribe and smash that like button if you like our content. Let's get to more of our story. WO is a new member. Thank you so much, WO. I do appreciate your generosity. Being a member of this program, you can go to our library of episodes and watch any episode you want. They're all open to you, including the members only early peak Cloak and Dagger, which I think we're going to be making a few of those in the month of May. So buckle up, brace for impact. Thank you so much, WO, for your generosity. You are knighted, cloak, and dagger. Thanks for coming on in. I appreciate it. Ricky Tungate, Mr. Hoosier, is in the house. Thank you for your generosity, your super chat, Mr. Hoosier. Thank you for all the support you have given us through the weeks and months that you have. Appreciate it, Mr. Tungate. The Hoosiers, Indiana, Fernando Mendoza. I loved him in California, but you are the evil. You're not the evil Hoosiers, but you are Big Ten Hoosiers, which means I cannot be in love with Fernando Mendoza as much with the Indiana uniform on as he had the California Bear uniform. I apologize, Ricky. I just got to be honest with you. I got to be honest with you. Okay. Daniel Gygax, even with the unequal distribution, the high-end money the ACC can pay is nowhere close to the Big Ten and the SEC can pay. And Daniel Gygax, Mr. Mountaineer, if you went into a room, let's just say you went into a room with Graham Neff, the Clemson Tiger athletic director, and Daniel Gygax, you went into your West Virginia Mountaineer bowling bag where you have your bowling balls when you go to the neighborhood and you do your bowling, Daniel Gygax. I don't know if you're a bowler or not. I'm just making all this up. When you go into your into the room, in the back room, and you got Graham Neff with you, who's going to be doing some bowling with you, you reach into your bag, you take out a needle, you got truth serum, you poke Graham Neff in his arm with the truth serum, and you ask him, everything being said, all your agreements, ACC unequal revenue sharing, your agreement with Notre Dame, if I could give you the invitation to the SEC, the Big Ten right now, would you take it? Graham Neff would say yes in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jose, a bifurcated lower schools could just be happy remaining in a P4 conference and not relegated to G6. You can look at it that way. But man, that is you could look at it that way. That is what I think your Florida State, your Clemson, your Miami, that's what they're probably hoping that the lower non-brand supposedly schools of the ACC, they're probably hoping they think that way as well. I don't know. We are going to learn a lot in the month of May during the ACC meetings. There's got to be some leakage. There's got to be some reporting about how truly people feel about this radical concept, this radical idea that the Miami Athletic Director Radakovich spilled out yesterday. My goodness. My goodness. Okay, let's get to some other stories here. We got a lot to get to. Again, before we get to phone calls, we got a couple more stories here. The big ones. The big ones. Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger. Power conferences seeking more control over the NCAA championships governance. This has been going on for months. Charlie Baker announced a proposal. I don't know. I think it was January. Maybe not. I don't remember the month. It's been a while. Not really much to talk about. I mean, obviously the Autonomy 4 conferences are going to get more power. It's just depending on where they put that line, right? Where do they put that dividing line? Is there going to be a new subdivision? Are schools going to be able to move between subdivisions? Lot to learn. We still do not know a whole lot. The proposal would grant the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12 ACC rights to manage events like the men's and women's basketball tournaments. No longer would the NCAA manage the events of the men's and women's basketball tournaments. It would be the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC. We're not going to go through this whole article because basically a lot of it is the same. It's the same stuff we've been hearing. We're looking for more details. The proposal is described only as a working document. It's not complete or an approved product. Again, we're still back to that, right? It's not... We don't even really know how this is all going to look like. And it's really tough to... We're gonna hit upon it on this live show, but we're probably not going to talk about it until we get more definite details of what exactly this governance is going to look like. And in the document indicates a clear direction from the Autonomous Four. They want an expansion of their previously existing autonomous legislative powers, not only for rulemaking and policy decision, but for NCAA championships, controlling concepts like tournament format, revenue distribution, and selection committee process. That's the power that the SEC and the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC want. They want the power to basically drive the championships, the tournament format, the revenue distribution, the selection process. Charlie Baker Project, okay. Again, Sankey cautioned that the proposal is only a conversation starter. So we're still not really there yet to really talk about the details. The proposal from the power conferences does not signal the long-discussed breakaway from the National Association. Okay? We still view the championships as a binding us together, Sankey said. The basketball tournament is a national and American experience. Right? So everybody, there's still going to be access for all the Division I schools, according to what Sankey is saying. Phillips calls the tournament a national treasure and remains adamant in access points for all leagues. Brett Yormark calls the proposal part of a complete review of the entire model and a necessary modification to provide greater authority to the power leagues. Okay? Now, here we get to the juicy part of this article. However, there is fear that granting power conferences control of these marquee events will limit the opportunities for those in the mid-majors and possibly reduce the revenue shares from the tournament. The power leagues, specifically the Big Ten and the SEC, use threats of a breakaway to consolidate more revenue during the college football playoff negotiations last spring. The four leagues, the Autonomous Four, also spearheaded negotiations over the House settlement. Remember all that. The moves have more rapidly grown a gulf between the four richest conferences in college athletics and everyone else. This could be a real fight over the future of what college athletics look like. One FCS leader said, at some point, we're going to have to call their bluff and say, take your ball and go. it seems to me that we are increasingly closer to that happening. The chances of the NCAA adopting the Power League's proposal is uncertain. Now, when you talk about the NCAA, that is NCAA representing all these schools, 300 and whatever schools, right? The proposal was described by one as an aggressive solution that has real legs, but by another as having little to no chance to pass in its current iteration. If the power leagues don't get consensus in a full membership vote, they could withdraw from the association. The Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, if they don't get the vote, if they don't get the power, they might break away from the NCAA. But there's one big problem to that. Well, there's more than one, but we're only going to talk about one today. The power leagues and the NCAA and all these other schools entered into a 10-year agreement as part of the House settlement, binding the entities together through 2035. So we're going to learn more about this governance. Basically, it's the autonomous four conferences gaining more power in how to run championships events, how to format the championships, revenue distribution of the championships. And they're threatening. If they do not get what they want, they could bolt. It's the same thing that the Big Ten and the SEC used against the Big 12 and the ACC when talking about the college football playoff format. So, here we go again. This is the governance. We are going to learn more. It sounded like in a different report that I read that Charlie Baker is expected to have this new governance all set up, all voted on, all approved, hopefully, all figured out by July. I don't know how that's going to happen. But wherever the story goes at Peek Around the Corner, we're going to follow it. We're not going to talk about it every day. There's really not much to talk about. I mean, there really isn't. And there hasn't been for months. The report happened today. We're covering it. It's a working process. Nothing is official. They don't even have the final structure of it for them to even vote on it. So we will follow it as we can. Okay. All right. And then the next major story, and then we're going to get to your phone calls. El Presidente, Donald Trump. Sources, Yahoo Sports once again. President Trump is planning to create a commission on college sports to address the issues ailing the industry. We're going to go through this real quick. For years now, college sports leaders journeyed to the national capital by the dozens to lobby for congressional help. Soon the White House may step in. President Donald Trump is making plans to create a presidential commission on college athletics, the first step in what could be a months-long endeavor for solutions to the issues ailing the ecosystem. Multiple sources, both in Congress and within college sports, spoke to Yahoo Sports under the condition of anonymity as they were not authorized to speak about Trump's plan. Many college sports stakeholders have been briefed on the matter. It is unclear when an announcement could come. Trump's involvement, though not surprising, is a landmark moment in college athletic history. The country's most powerful elected leader potentially shaping the future of the industry. Details of the commission are for now being kept private, but the group is expected to feature college sports stakeholders, prominent business people with deep connections to college football, and perhaps even a former coach, Nick Saban, and an administrator. The commission is expected to deeply examine the unwieldy landscape of college sports, including the frequency of player movement in the transfer portal, the unregulated booster compensation paid to athletes, the debate of college athlete employment, the application of Title IX to school revenue share payments, and even conference membership makeup and conference television contracts. Those with knowledge of the commission told Yahoo Sports. Super League? Super League? They're even going to be looking at conference membership makeup and conference television contracts. Trump's involvement was expected last month during a trip where more than 100 college sports leaders traveled to D.C. to lobby on the Hill. They were informed of the White House interest in potential action. Okay, so Trump was contemplating an executive order. Thank God that didn't happen. It would not have worked. Okay, the rest is just more of the same. So, presidential commission could be announced here. What do you guys think of it? I started off the show by saying I don't have a problem with this. I might be naive. I might be stupid in saying this. I don't think at this point a presidential commission is going to hurt. It probably is not going to help. I think there's a slight chance that it might help because there is reports out there, including today, that the 5 senators that have been working on, led by Ted Cruz and Cory Booker, they're as close as they ever been in compromising on what all this is going to look like to codify the NCAA House settlement. In fact, those 5 senators may be waiting on the final confirmation that Judge Wilkins has approved the settlement. Then these 5 senators might say, look, we're close. Now we can punch it into the end zone. We can get it done. We can codify this. Or maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe this presidential commission can push it over the edge. Not the commission itself, but the threat of the commission. These senators may be able to get it done without the commission even really getting started. And maybe, so therefore, indirectly, maybe the presidential commission can help. And again, I might be stupid in saying this, but I don't think it's going to hurt. We need a miracle. We need a miracle. We need something to happen here. We need codification. First of all, we need Judge Wilkins to approve this. First of all, we need all these schools that are represented by the conferences and the commissioners to wake up and do what the judge wants you to do. Get this done. You've all signed on the dotted line. You do not want to go back into the courts against the House and some other lawsuits that are out there that are folded into the settlement. You do not want to have a trial. You do not want to do this. Get this done. And then you need a miracle shot. You actually need Congress to help. So there it is. A presidential commission, governance, Big Ten money. We've talked a lot in this long monologue. Now we're going to get to your phone calls. We'll get to your super chats when they come on in your memberships. I appreciate everybody coming on in. Appreciate everybody coming on in. Keep your head on a swivel. There may be breaking news as we do this live show on Judge Wilkins. And now that's out in California. keep your head on a swivel. Let's open up the phone lines. Let's open up the phone lines. You can talk anything in college football that your heart desires. 763-260-1333. That is the number. You also see it on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. 763-260-1333. Let me holy smokes.
Call from
Rick.
Rick, my goodness, my Google Voice, what it showed up on the screen looks totally different than it's ever looked like before. I'm glad it still works. Maybe they put in a new maybe it's just going to look different from here on in. Anyways, Rick, thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
Well, I hope there isn't any cheese in that.
No, no cheese. No cheese. I love cheese. Just don't put it on any meats. Go ahead, sir.
So what's the most important thing that you put out today?
I don't know. We put out a lot. Big Ten money, governance. I don't think governance is the most important because I just think, I don't know. They're still working on it. I mean, they don't even have the, how do I say
now,
this?
The most important.
Yeah,
The
go
most
ahead.
important. The most important was something else. It was that what we're seeing in public.
Oh, yeah.
And what's going on in private are two different things.
Mm-hmm. And I cannot wait until that gets reported on in public.
It's very exciting, very, very exciting what's going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
And that's where you come in.
Yes. And I know people are mad at me. Look, I first of all, let's be clear. I do not know a hell of a lot. I know some things. Some things I've expressed. I know there's an aggression from some schools. This is going to get reported on. And when it does, we are going to go live and I'm going to have a big smile on my face and we're going to have some fun with it. But there's a lot that I do not know. There's a lot of doors that have not been opened to me as of yet. I keep asking politely, but I'm not, I think there's a lot of stories that are in the hopper, Rick. There is. These ladies and gentlemen do not write these articles in one day. They're working on them. Their editors look at it, and a lot of this information is embargoed. I happen to believe, Rick. That there is a lot of stuff embargoed until this NCAA House settlement is finally approved. And then when we get into the ACC meetings, I think everyone's going to see some drama happening. But go ahead, sir.
Well, I think everybody knows the schools in the ACC that are aggressive to make this change happen.
Yeah, I think definitely most of the PATC family knows that. But once it gets written again by more than one national reporter, after Florida State and Clemson won the victory in the court, I think it's all going to hit a little bit differently because we haven't had that major report since the victory in the courts. I think we're going to get it in the month of May.
And what we don't know is, so we got most of the schools. What we don't know is the order of aggression. Most aggressive to least aggressive. Do you know that order?
Well, I think most aggressive is North Carolina. And then
More so than Florida State.
Yeah.
North Carolina is more aggressive to get out of the ACC.
I thought you were taking it from the conference. I thought you were taking it from the conference's perspective. I do not know that. You're correct. I do not know that. In fact, I've only been okay. So I've only received some dots of information, and there is a lot of dots that are missing. I have received information on North Carolina. Something happening in New York City with North Carolina. We don't have it all confirmed. Something happened in New York City. We know of Duke's aggression way behind, like Duke basically saying, how do I say this? We may not be your favorite, but we're going to try to become one of your favorites. We will do basically anything. Let me put it this way, and I'm very scared to say this, because if I say this, Rick, people pick up on it, they throw it out there, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, okay?
I'm here.
Duke, in some ways, and I'm not saying Duke's going to make into the Power 2. I think they're a long shot, okay? I got to be careful when I start talking like this, because people like to take just one couple words, and I think Duke's a long shot, a live shot, but a long shot to get to the Power 2. And I'm not saying if they do get to the Power 2, it's going to be this type of arrangement. But what I will say, from what we have heard, Duke is basically the SMU in this Holy Smokes Theater play. Duke is willing to say, we don't need nothing from you but an invitation. We'll take care of ourselves for the next 10 years. And then we'll become fully invested in the SEC of the Big Ten. We will take care of ourselves. We will go from the Ivy League private library research, blah, 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 consortium, and we'll enter into the BTAA, the Big Ten, the cancer, whatever we need to do, we'll get it done. We just need that invite. So Duke is sort of like the SMU in the Holy Smokes Theater. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's how aggressive Duke is becoming. We are missing, there is a lot of stuff we do not know, and I've asked, and I believe there's something there, but I'm not being told stuff. And I don't blame. Look, people are. It's very hard to explain, but people are. They've been very tight. You can tell. You don't need to listen to me. Everybody in the chat room, you can tell. The reporters have been very tight-lipped since the Florida State, Colorado, since the Florida State Clemson victory in the courts. They have not even approached the subject. They will, but they haven't done it yet. And I think there's major reasons for it. They do not want to become part of the story. Just like when Colorado met with the Big 12 in Chicago. Everybody was professional about it. They opened the door to me. I was professional about it. I was a little dramatic, Rick. I talked about it on May 8th that the Pac-12 got a shot in the solar plexus, but we did not become part of the story. We did not stop something from happening because we blurted it out. I think that is what is going on right now. The report.
And the Florida State money perch thinks that they'll team with Clemson and be the third and fourth to the SEC?
No, that's not what he thinks. I came to that conclusion on what what people believe of many, many people that I talk to. The Florida State money purge is actually remains pretty depressed about the whole situation. The last thing, the second to the last thing he said to us is he didn't think Florida State, he thought Florida State was in a much tougher position and he's not feeling all that optimistic. And he was even thinking the Big 12 was going to come back into play because he thinks that there's people around him that are discouraged, so he's discouraged.
Wow.
So the Florida State money purge is actually way more despondent on Florida State's chances than I am. But then again, I'm talking to other people than he is, right? I'm talking to,
right.
He's talking to Florida State. He's talking to Clemson people too. So yeah, he's pretty depressed about it, but we'll see.
So Duke is pushing hard, but we know, especially from what you said, they're going to need a partner, just the right type of partner.
Who? Duke?
Duke.
Yeah, everybody will. Duke will need the right partner. Florida State would need Florida State would need the right partner. Clemson would need the right partner. I think everybody would. I think Miami is the right partner for all those schools. That's why I think Miami's in the best spot. If again, the question is this. I truly don't believe the Big Ten is thirsting for expansion as much as the SEC. I really truly believe that. If North Carolina called the Big Ten today, the Big Ten would say, let's do this. Let's get it done. If, of course, Notre Dame called them, which they're not, Big Ten obviously would do it. If in Miami, Miami is a situation in which if the SEC does a big enough scoop, and obviously we don't think Miami's part of that scoop, and there's more instability in the ACC than anybody could imagine, then I think Miami's in a good spot to have the right, to be able to create a right partnership with somebody to join the Big Ten. And I'm going to say this. I've said this before, in both Florida State and Miami, people got mad at me. I will say this, though. I'm going to say it again, so you all can get mad at me again. I know this is going to sound strange, but, I talk about how the relationship between Florida State and Notre Dame ain't all that good, Rick, right?
Yep.
I said the relationship between Florida State and North Carolina isn't all that good, right? But correct. I'm not going to say that about Florida State and Miami because I've been told differently. They are not. They are the enemies on the football field and the fans and all this, but they're not, for whatever reason, and I've been told this many, many times, they're willing to work with each other. They have worked with each other. So that's why that combo, I think, is alive and well for the Big Ten. I don't think it's alive for the SEC. I don't think the SEC has any interest in Miami, any at all. But I think that combo is alive. I think, so I know that sounds really strange, and I know people are going to rake me over the coals again. But institutionally, Florida State and Miami, it isn't like they don't have that bad relationship. I know it sounds dumb when I say that, but I'm telling you guys, they would, if it helps them both out, I think they would be willing to both go to the Big Ten, and I think that could please Fox and the Big Ten presidents, everybody. I don't know if we're going to get to that point, but that is a live option.
And the SEC would hate to see the Big Ten.
Yes.
That heavy in Florida.
Yes. They would hate that synergy. And that is the leading reason why I think the SEC takes Florida State along with what they want. That is what, and I'm not the only one who believes this. Okay, I know it's not being reported on, but the chatter behind the curtain. That's why on April 8th I went out there and said this crazy scenario that the SEC takes North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Clemson because SEC doesn't want Florida State and Miami to go to the Big Ten. They just don't want that to happen. And I think it's a plausible option for the Big Ten if nothing else goes right for the Big Ten, North Carolina and Notre Dame.
And then Duke comes along and says, well, they're all gone Big Ten, but you can still plant your flag in Florida with Miami and your flag in North Carolina with us.
Sure. Possibly.
Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. Appreciate it. Beautiful call, Rick. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Miami and Florida State has bad blood in when they play each other. I get it, guys. I know the fans go after each other. They have nicknames for each other. I know what they are. I get it. Scum and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm just talking about institutionally. And by the way, that is common. That is common. There, how do I say this? There is more of when you got two big public schools in the same state that are on the same level, those two public schools, the chance of those two institutionally being tight is less than the chances if there is a public school and a private school being, you know what I'm saying? When you're a public and a private, you are swimming in different waters. You're not butting heads as much. You're not battling the same fights over and over again in your state legislature. Like Duke and North Carolina, they get along. I mean, it's just common. So again, I know I'm going to get just crushed by everybody. Go ahead. Rip on me. I'm just telling you, if North Carolina goes to the SEC and the SEC doesn't scoop up Florida State, and Notre Dame is still saying, nah, Big Ten, we can wait this out for years. And the Big Ten's looking, okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do now? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do now? And they give a call to Miami, or Miami gives them a call, and they're talking about this. And I think that Florida State Miami is a very legit. We've been talking about this for a long time. That would possibly work for everybody involved. And I don't think Miami would shut it down. And this is why, again, I'm not saying this in a vacuum. This is why many people that I talk to think that the SEC is going to make sure that is not an option for the Big Ten. And I think eventually Florida State gets scooped up by the SEC. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong on that, I'll eat a cheeseburger. How about them apples? Yes, Florida State, Miami, a long history of working together. Thank you, Sam. One person not going to rip on me. The fans, yes. Battle. The two universities, it's not like that. And I've been told, look, as a naive person, the fat guy from Minnesota, when I was told that a long time ago, I kept saying, really? Really? No. They're cool with each other, and I was told yes, they work together. It would not be a problem for if Miami had an opportunity to go to the Big Ten, and Florida State is part of the possibility of happening. Miami ain't going to say no. Same thing with Florida State. They're not going to say no. Nah, we can't have Miami. No, they're going to say okay, yeah, good, let's go. What Miami can't get in the Big Ten on its own? Morris Simmons, Florida State Seminole. We think they're in a pretty good spot, but they're not a lock. Only North Carolina and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame ain't calling the Big Ten anytime soon. And North Carolina, we'll see what happens. Because the SEC wants North Carolina desperately. Same with West Virginia and Pitt. Their hospitals have a great working relationship. Okay. Anything else? MH Ortho 12. Greg, do you believe the Big Ten will have to add 2 more out west to protect their investments? To protect their investments is a interesting way of putting it. I think and I've talked about this before, I think there might be a scenario, and I don't think it's going to happen in this next wave of disruption, but in the years ahead, if there is a scenario where the Big Ten is incentivized to go to 24, not because of economics, not direct economic incentive, but because internally, politically, they have said, okay, we need to add 2 more to protect our investments based upon travel concerns, whatever. Or if there is this incentive to have to go to 24 because there's going to be some 48-team breakaway, Big Ten and the SEC go off on their own. So there's a couple different scenarios in which I think the Big Ten could add a couple more Western teams, universities. Now, every time I say this on the live show, people go typing out on their keyboards going, boy, Greg doesn't understand economics. Greg doesn't understand there's nobody out west that could grow the economic pie of the Big Ten and everybody's going to have to take less money, blah, 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 blah. No, I understand that. I get it. There's not going to be a large direct economic incentive to add a couple of Western universities. I completely agree. But if there's something else that's going to supersede it for one time only, if the Big Ten has to go to 24 for internal, political, governmental, whatever this thing that's going to drive it, a breakaway, something else that drives them to 24, then yes, I think there is a chance of that happening. But I don't think it's going to happen in this next disruption. I really don't. I don't think Stanford is going to be part of this next mix. I think I do have them sitting in the Holy Smokes Theater, but I got Duke and Georgia Tech and Miami all ahead of them. Anyways, MH Ortho 12, thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Morris Simmons, the Big Ten is going to screw this realignment up. Again, that has been told about the Big Ten before when they took Rutgers and Maryland. That was told about the Big Ten when they took UCLA with USC and not somebody else. that was said about the Big Ten. The Big Ten screwed it up when they created the conference network. 98% of people out there on message boards and everywhere were saying the Big Ten Conference Network is a joke. They're not making any money out of it. But years later, $928 million for 2024. A lot of money in the Big Ten. We talk about blends that work. We talk about a potential Miami, Florida State blend that works. The whole Big Ten is a blend. The whole Big Ten is a blend. You have major brands, and if you're not a major brand, you're a major market. A market with a lot of money, where the national advertisers like to advertise. When you're looking at Oregon and Washington, you're looking at that blend. You're looking at the possibility of Florida State and Miami. You're looking at that blend. The whole Big Ten is a blend unto itself. You've got Iowa that has a lot more Iowa Hawkeyes. You got a lot more fan intensity in Iowa than you do in Illinois. But you got Illinois, the big state, the big market of Chicago. You've got Wisconsin and Minnesota. Wisconsin has more college sports intensity, but you got the money in Minnesota. You've got Rutgers in Maryland that brings a lot of Big Ten demographics. You've got them bringing the East Coast media. You've got Penn State, giant brand. You've got Ohio State, giant brand. You've got Michigan, giant brand. You've got UCLA, big time public university with a private university in USC blend. The whole conference is a blend. You've got engineering schools. You've got medical schools. You've got Purdue. And you've got Minnesota in the same conference. The whole conference is a blend. Jim Delaney talked about it all the time. You know, you still got people on X. You still got people on X saying Jim Delaney is part of the past. Jim Delaney is part of the past. This is the future now. This is Tony Petitti. He's completely different. He's completely different. Did you see that he brought in Oregon? Did you see that Tony Petitti brought in Oregon? Well, yeah, he brought in Oregon. He brought in Washington at the same time. Blend. Got the presidential votes. Got Fox's vote. It's just, people say, Greg, it's the presidential vote is the only thing that matters. Wrong. Greg, Fox, they're running everything, Greg. Wrong. They all need to be on board. They all need to be on board, or it ain't going to happen. The Big Ten presidents wanted Stanford and California. It did not happen. There's been many a school that Fox would have loved to have in the Big Ten, but the Big Ten presidents didn't even bring it up to a vote because it wasn't going to scratch their backs. It's the blend. So, look, I mean, so when I talk about these schools, people always think I'm taking shots at everybody. I'm not. I'm just telling you the reality of the 18 Big Ten presidents. I told you all this before Washington. I said Washington and Oregon are going to get in the Big Ten in the next 5 months or the next 5 years. And if it happens in the next 5 months, these are the things that needed to happen. Kevin Warren needed to leave. The Big 12 needed to poach. The Pac-12, all that stuff happened. Washington and Oregon got in. And I told you month after month after month is because Oregon was the brand multiplier. Fox wanted them, and the presidents wanted Washington. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern. Oops, I said those schools before earlier in the program. So I'm telling you guys, I don't know how many. Look, I'm not taking a shot at Miami. I'm not taking a shot at Florida State. I'm not. I truly am not. These are huge, successful, big brands with huge fan bases. Did you see how much money the Big Ten made? The Big Ten isn't going to go broke. The Big Ten is going to keep making money. They want to keep making money with the research. They want to expand their power just like any other organization out there. That's what the SEC is trying to do. That's what the Big 12 is trying to do. ACC is scrambling. They're trying to do it. The Big Ten, everybody has got to be on board because you're making what they consider a 100-year decision. They're not going to take you on just because you have high viewership football numbers. Nope. Because they don't need to. You're not going to be able to get on board just because you do $1 billion worth, $1.5 billion, $2 billion worth of research. Stanford could not get in. Nope. It's got to be the correct blend. I will say this. If the SEC does the minimum, and again, I think they're more open to expansion than the Big Ten. If they do the minimum and only take North Carolina and another piece, which we think it's Virginia, if they only do the minimum, and I don't think that's going to be the case, but if they only do the minimum, I will tell you this right now. Notre Dame will look at that and say, okay, we're going to survive this. The ACC is not going to totally implode because we don't think the Big Ten is going to go hog wild, and I think they're going to be correct. If the SEC does a big scoop, Notre Dame starts to sweat. But if the SEC does just the minimum, now the Big Ten decides, well, we didn't get North Carolina, and we're not going to get Notre Dame again this time around. So what do we do? What does the Big Ten do at that point? It's easy to figure out if the SEC, in our opinion, that's why we predicted it, if the SEC does the big scoop of North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Clemson, it's kind of easy what the Big Ten is going to do next. Miami, Notre Dame, if Notre Dame says no, Miami and somebody else. Or nothing at all. But if the SEC does minimum, if they do a North Carolina and another piece, if they do not have to grease the skids, if the money's going to be there anyways, then what does the Big Ten do next? And I got to tell you, it's going to be Miami and something. Because Miami makes the perfect blend with everybody. Everybody. They make the perfect blend with Florida State, and I think that'd be the number one option. Miami and Georgia Tech, Miami and Duke, it all works. But I don't think the SEC is going to go minimum. And I probably am the only person who believes this when it comes to college football YouTube channels. Usually when people talk about this issue, they're thinking SEC takes Florida State and Clemson. That seems to be the biggest one. Or Florida State and Clemson go to the Big Ten. I everything that I've heard is not, it's there was an article that, and I made a big mistake because I should have presented this article on this live show. I screwed up. Maybe on the next live show. But there was an article that just came out yesterday or the day before. Somebody Google it. Someone go ahead and Google it. Talking about how the ESPN basically loves college sports, loves college football because they make money. Do you remember that? Anybody in the chat room? Say yes or no. There was an article yesterday or the day before. ESPN loves college sports. Loves college football. Somebody give me a yes. I know one of you read it. It's out there. I don't want to Google it when I'm on live show here, but it was out there. And I'll show it in the next live show. ESPN loves college football. They love that content. It makes them money with the advertisers. Fox loves it too. Fox is making more money than ever before. Let's not get this twisted here. The Fox lineup of shows and the Big Ten is just rolling in money. The SEC is rolling in money. Jose saw it. I know somebody had to see it besides me. Go ahead and Google it. It just was out yesterday or the day before. Now, this is not a surprise, but it's just a reminder. ESPN loves it. I do not see how, and I believe the SEC is more thirsty than the Big Ten. Knowing what I believe to know, and that is the SEC presidents are determined to get Virginia and North Carolina for their particular needs for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, putting the SEC flag in the ground of those two big populous states in the international connections that they have and all that other stuff. The political power in Virginia, all this other stuff. I find it almost impossible to believe that Clemson and Florida State is not part of the SEC expansion. Every day that goes by, it was April 8th when we made this declaration on Peek Around the Corner. And I said at the time, I'm not taking this lightly. I know the words have weight to them. On May 7th, I'm more confident. I do not see how the SEC only takes North Carolina and Virginia, and I do not see how the SEC takes somebody else and leaves North Carolina and Virginia out if they have the opportunity to grab North Carolina and Virginia. We're talking about blends. North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Florida State. Where the SEC is going, the expansion of the college football playoffs, scheduling, going to 9 conference games, having a crossover with the Big Ten. It all spells to me SEC aggressive expansion. But we'll see what happens. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Heartbreak 25. Penn State is the last Big Ten voted in with a unanimous decision thanks to Michigan State Hoosier, and Amos Mini's athletic director. We're proud of it. Rebel pride. I don't think Penn State is the last Big Ten team voted in without a unanimous decision. Thank you for the super chat, Heartbreak 25. Washington and Oregon was not unanimous. Now, it might have become unanimous at the end, but it wasn't unanimous at the beginning.
Call from
Jackson Johnson from Meridianville.
to accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Jackson Johnson, thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
How you doing today, Greg? It's my first time calling in.
I do appreciate it, sir. Can you hold on for a moment, though? Mr. Jackson Johnson? Hold on for just a moment. I just want to answer Heartbreak 25. He was so kind to give me a super chat. I appreciate it, Heartbreak 25. I do not consider Washington and Oregon to be a unanimous decision. There were Big Ten teams against that expansion. Ohio State was against it. Iowa was against it. Penn State was against it. But again, they had the votes. Washington and Oregon had the votes. They came in at half rate. So anyways, but thank you for the super chat, Heartbreak 25. I do appreciate it. The floor is yours, Jackson Johnson. Thanks for calling, sir.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Greg.
You got it, buddy.
You talked a little bit about Florida State joining the SEC.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what would be pretty cool if this happened. Like, if there is going to be big-time conference expansion in the next few years, if it has to happen, I'd like to see, like, Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech, Clemson. Here's why. This way, the Florida schools could play each other every year like they used to. Georgia Tech could be a conference rivalry once again like it was in the early 60s, 50s, 40s, and 30s. And we could see Clemson, Georgia be a conference rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few others that I'm thinking of at the moment, like Alabama, Georgia Tech, because that was a pretty big rivalry in the early 60s. I mean, Georgia Tech's literally in the Alabama fight zone, but yet they haven't played each other since 1984. That's not good.
Yeah.
But they will play each other in 2029.
Yep.
But
You're breaking up a little bit.
oh, sorry about that.
That's
yeah,
okay.
like I don't know if it's realistic for Georgia Tech, Clemson, Florida State, Miami to all join the SEC, but I feel like we're going to likely see Florida State, Clemson join the SEC in the years to come, but we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm really getting a lot of breakup. I don't think Miami is a candidate for the SEC. But that's all. You're really breaking up. I can't really hear you that well. I apologize.
Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah. I appreciate the call. Try to call back next time, maybe in a different location.
All right.
I get most of your words, but then I'm losing it, and I'm not quite getting what you're saying. I do apologize.
It's all good, man.
You got it, sir.
I'll be seeing you, good buddy.
Okay, buddy. Thank you. Call again. It was just enough to where I couldn't. Everybody can, hold on a second here. Can everybody hold on a moment? I gotta check on something. Okay, that's not. No. Hold on. Guys, give me a couple minutes. I'm gonna be right back. We're not ending the show yet. Hold on. Give me a moment, please. Give me a moment. I do apologize for this. Give me a moment. All right. I apologize for all that. Let me. Can anybody? Can you guys hear me? By the way. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Thanks for your patience. I apologize. Let me So that Chris Vanini article, that is not on the Athletic, huh? That's just the Los Angeles Times. The New York Times, I mean. Yeah, I do not have access to that. Yep, I do not have access to that. I thought that would be on the Athletic. Can somebody explain to me? You're going to have to copy and paste. Jan Hulk, can you copy and paste it? The article to me on my DM? And then I'll read it for everybody. At Flug Empire on X. At Flug Empire, FLU, here. I do not see it on the Athletic. Or maybe it's under Andrew Marchand, because it's not under Chris Vanini. Okay, let me check. Come on here. I got it. I got it. Thank you, John Grove. I was looking under the wrong author. Okay, here we go. Seth Emerson and Andrew Marchand. Thank you, Jan Hulk. Hawk. We've got it. Let me read it to you. ESPN has indicated a willingness to increase its payment to the SEC if the conference adds a ninth game to its league football schedule, sources briefed on the matter told The Athletic. Now, that is a major plane. If that lands at 9 conference games, and remember, On 3, Andy Staples alluded to that happening a few days ago, and that was part of one of our live shows. That is a big, big deal, okay? There is no formal offer yet, those sources added. And the exact amount of the increase is unclear. But the sources said the additional money would likely be in the range of 50 to 80 million annually on top of the current deal, in which ESPN pays the conference $811 million per year to broadcast the sporting events. Both ESPN and SEC declined to comment. A change in ESPN's stance doesn't mean the SEC will definitely move to playing non-conference games. Now the main hurdle to expand in the league's schedule may be the future college football playoff format, which isn't likely to be determined until at least June. That makes it less likely, though not impossible, that the SEC makes a decision on the schedule format at its spring meetings later this month in Destin, Florida. Still, ESPN's willingness to up its ante is an important development, as it has been one of the main sticking points among the SEC members to resist the push for 9 games. When the SEC announced the addition of Oklahoma and Texas, momentum towards a 9-game schedule increased instantly, with Commissioner Greg Sankey among those privately in favor. But for the past 4 years, members have expressed enough opposition that the conference instead went with the temporary fix of 8-game football schedules for 24 and 25, the first 2 seasons with Oklahoma and Texas. Some of the concern was competitive, especially among teams worried about reaching the 6-win bowl eligibility threshold. Some of the concern was economic. A 9-game schedule means schools would pay 1 fewer home conference game every 2 years, and they wanted ESPN to help make up the difference. One of the issues in the room for our athletic directors is what seemed to matter the most, is the number to the right, the number of losses. And how do we understand what that means for our schedule moving forward? Again, if you go to 8 conference games, the 9 conference games, you are adding losses to the right side of the wins and loss ledger, right? How do we understand that, what that means for our schedule moving forward? Sankey said in March, during an appearance on the Paul Feinbaum show, I'm the one who said I really think we ought to be trying to move towards a 9-game conference schedule. I think that can be positive for a lot of reasons. You watch the interest around conference games, but not if that causes us to lose our opportunities. One reason Sankey and the SEC went with the temporary 8-game schedule was the hope that the success of the inaugural season with Oklahoma and Texas would encourage ESPN. And that appears to be exactly what happened. The 2 new SEC schools were part of the memorable, highly rated games, including their annual Red River rivalry and Texas' 2 losses to Georgia on national stages. The SEC championship between the Bulldogs and the Longhorns was the highest rated non-playoff game for the college football season. And at least one SEC team was involved in 8 of the 10 most highly rated games of the college football regular season. Another consideration for the league is that the games would not happen regularly if the SEC stayed with an 8-game schedule. The 8-game format would include only 1 permanent opponent for every team. So some highly rated rivalries would only be played twice every 4 years, including Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, and Auburn versus Georgia. If the SEC went to 9-game schedule, all those games would be played annually. Those matchups are all part of the 24-25 schedules, an unsettled way for the SEC to show what ESPN, what it could be missing. Okay. As for the college football playoff format, the SEC has been waiting to see whether the postseason field will expand to 14 or 16 teams, and whether any automatic bids will be installed in the new format. The SEC and the Big Ten have discussed pushing for as many as 4 bids apiece. When the SEC only got 3 teams in 24-25 playoff field, concern over further snubs immediately boosted the league-wide sentiment about staying at 8 games. The introduction of automatic bids may address those concerns, but momentum for their addition to the college football playoff structure may have stalled. Another factor in the potential move off of 8-game slates, the SEC has been working closely with the Big Ten, which plays a 9-game conference schedule. In the league's consideration of future scheduling partnerships may hinge on playing the same number of league opponents. The SEC could also just settle for a stronger assurance that the schedule strength will matter to the CFP selection committee and assume the risk of an extra conference game in order to reap the financial benefits. The new money that would was not written very good, but the new money that would head towards each school from the ESPN would likely not even account for half of the more than 20 million schools will be allowed to distribute to athletes under the new revenue sharing system starting this summer, but it would still help. Okay. Sorry, long article. Basically, more momentum towards SEC going from 8 conference games to 9 conference games. It would bring in $50 to $80 million more to the overall media deal. Now, let's say it's $80 million. Okay? That is $5 million more to each school. 1/4 of the rev share amount. Not a whole lot more money, but more money. And then if there's a scheduling deal with the Big Ten, I think that would probably bring in a little bit more money to ESPN. If there is a Big Ten SEC scheduling deal, we'll see what happens there. Now, if you think about it, if the SEC, they're seriously contemplating, it looks like they're going to the way of 9 conference games. Okay, if it is going to be 9 conference games, they're going to be making more money. They're going to have more losses. They're probably going to push once again with the Big Ten for automatic bids. I think it's going to be 4. Maybe they'll settle for 3 per SEC in the Big Ten. Whatever happens. And by the way, if it's not 4, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger live for punishment for taking the L for the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, if you want to take it a step further, let's go ahead and do this. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 22 minutes. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible so you can go on your merry way for today on Wednesday, May 7th. If the SEC goes to 9 conference games, the college football playoff expands to 16 teams, or there's an easy pathway to 16 teams. You can see how all that greases the skids for more SEC expansion. Okay? Are you with me on this? Are you with me on this? Now, I believe I said this on April 8th. There's a lot of people who believe this. It's not just the moron from Minnesota. Okay? I could end up being 100% wrong. But at least there are people talking about it, and you can think it's logical or illogical. But if the SEC goes to 9 games, conference games, they're getting paid more money. The college football playoff expands. And the SEC presidents have other motives to expand the conference. Other motives than just what happens on the football field and the basketball field. It's even hard for me to come to the conclusion that the SEC presidents are going to get what they want, but ESPN ain't going to get what they want. I don't think. That's why I do not believe that the SEC, when they expand, I don't see how they can leave Florida State and Clemson out of it. When you are going to 9 conference games, you are adding 9 conference game. Let's say the SEC presidents get what they want, and they bring in North Carolina and Virginia. Out of the North Carolina, and this is not a shot against North Carolina and Virginia, but I'm going to just say it. If you've got 9 conference games, North Carolina, 9 conference game, Virginia, that's 18 games. That is 9 home games. That is 9 away games. ESPN is willing to pay more. They're going to pay pro rata. I just don't think that is going to work for ESPN unless they bring on other major college football brands that would put the grease on those Cavaliers and Tar Heels skids. I don't know how ESPN would go for it. They're going from 8 to 9. They're willing to pay more money. And now you're going to expand. And now you're going to have North Carolina, Virginia conference games. I think you got to bring on the Seminoles and the Tigers. I think that's got to be part of the equation. Not to mention, Clemson and Florida State are going to bring in, because of their playoff success, national championships, they're going to bring on a higher percentage of the playoff distribution money that is going to come to the SEC schools. They're going to all get paid more just based upon that, a few $1 million more for each school. Hell, Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina, Virginia will probably all say, okay, take some of our playoff distribution money. Give us the invite. Everybody's skids are being greased. That's why on April 8th, I did the live show and I said, I do not foresee an SEC expansion that does not entail Florida State, Clemson, in Virginia, North Carolina, because honestly, I don't. Look, the 98% of the other college football YouTube channels are not going to talk about the other piece of this. But the other piece of this is the SEC presidents are already sitting on a gold mine They're already sitting on athletic departments that are growing. The value of those athletic departments are growing. The SEC presidents, who are not you and me, they're different. They want what they want out of this deal. And they want North Carolina and Virginia, and they have told everybody that. Everybody. They have told everybody. Everybody. I mean, there are presidents in the SEC that have not kept this a secret at all. And those presidents have told their major boosters. And those boosters have not kept it a secret at all. Because the presidents are giving people a heads up. If we expand, we want North Carolina, we want Virginia for academics, research, international, student apocalypse reasons. So all that is still true. But what also is true is you're going to 9 conference games, and then you're going to have play-in games. If you have automatic bids, you're going to have play-in games. The SEC is going to have 2 or 3 play-in games, depending on how many automatic bids. And you got Florida State and Clemson in an SEC conference race where you're trying to get into the top 6, the top 4 to qualify for the play-in games. And if you win that play-in game, you go to the college football playoff. Those are eyeballs. Those are money. That greases the skids for North Carolina and Virginia. No shot against North Carolina, Virginia, because we've been the most pro North Carolina, Virginia as becoming targets out there. So I'm not taking shots. I'm just saying, how does the SEC increase going? Okay, add more conference games. Oh, by the way, you want to expand the conference? Okay, that's more conference games. Oh, by the way, we're adding North Carolina and Virginia. That don't work for me, brother. But what will work for us is those crazy Clemson Tiger fans, crazy Florida State fans, all the money they bring and all the places they travel. They're going to be going everywhere, buying those tickets, buying those t-shirts, buying the SEC network, the Disney Channel, the bundle, whatever they're doing. ESPN makes more and more money. So, again, the SEC going to 9 conference games is the first plane that needs to land. It doesn't seem all that important, right? Because it's the first one, right? But I think it's like the most important one. Because if it doesn't land, if the SEC remains at 8, it's a great indication that none of this other stuff is going to happen. And I'm going to be eating cheeseburgers for the rest of my life, which is going to be a shorter life than expected. And my expected life is pretty short as it is. I'm going to be eating cheeseburgers every night if none of this stuff happens. I think it's going to. And I think the primary indication of it all happening is that first plane landing, the SEC ESPN goes to 9 conference games, because that's the first indication that all these other skids are going to be greased. I want to thank Jan Holk for giving me the heads up, and John Grove. Thank you, John Grove, for giving me the heads up on this article. That's why I wanted it. I had to help my mother out. Came back in here. I wanted to read the article. It's very important. Very important. Extremely important. What does the SEC do? If they go to 9 conference games, buckle up, brace for impact. I want to thank everybody who's joined us. We've been on the air for two and a half hours. Preston from Greensboro, Cranky Tiger, W.O. Ricky Tungate, Heartbreak 25, thank you so much for your generosity. The donations help us keep the lights on. The Little General keeps supporting this live show, all the work we do, as long as we can pay the bills in the studio. I want to thank all the donations. Thank you all for joining us today, May 7th. And again, subscribe to our channel. Make sure your notifications are turned on. May matters. This month matters. So buckle up, brace for impact. I hope you stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Smash that like button if you've enjoyed our show today. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, 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 you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.